Yo, what's up guys, it's ApTreX here. In this video, we'll be testing out the brand new Citron Nintendo Switch emulator on my low-end Android device. This right here is the iQOO Z6 Lite with a Snapdragon 4 Gen 1 processor. Along with that, only 6GB of RAM, out of which only 2.4GB RAM is available. This device comes with the Adreno 619 GPU, and I'll be using the latest version of Citron Emulator which was released last week. With that being said, let's get started. To start setting it up, I'll just go ahead and tap on I understand. Afterwards, make sure to import my games in this emulator. Now that I have finished setting up this emulator on my low-end device, we can start testing out games. But before doing that, let me show you guys the best settings that you need to use inside the Citron Emulator Android. If you guys have seen my previous Citron testing videos, you guys know that this is one of the best performing Nintendo Switch emulators out there, and many of you guys were wondering how well will it work on a low-end device. I guess you guys will get your answer today. Make sure to disable limit speed percentage. Afterwards, go to graphics, and here set the resolution to 0.5x as we are using low-end device. VSync mode, turn it off. Afterwards, scroll down, aspect ratio stretch to window. Afterwards, force maximum clocks, use asynchronous shaders, and that's about it. These are the only settings that you need to use if you want to try out Citron Emulator on your low-end device as well. Once that has been done, we'll head back and you'll be able to see all the games that we'll be testing out in today's video, including the newest Sonic X Shadow generations. Well, let's start with our first game, which is going to be One Piece Unlimited World Red. Now, this is an amazing game that is very well optimized to be played on low-end Android devices. The reason why we are emulating this game first is because it gets very amazing FPS, and I want to see what is the capability of our Android device, which I have got right here. Now that we have skipped all the cutscenes, you guys will be able to see our game has successfully started, and immediately at the top left corner we are getting about 55 to 60 FPS while emulating this game. This is almost flagship level performance on a low-end Android device. As I mentioned before, it has Snapdragon 4 Gen 1, which is one of the lowest end Snapdragon processors, and emulating such an high graphics 3D One Piece game on our Android devices is super easy with the help of Citron Emulator Android. Well, with that being said, let's just go ahead and exit this game and test out our next games. I forgot to follow a most important step, which is going to be to import a graphics driver. I just remember that. So for today's video, I'll be using the Mesa Turnip Adreno driver version 25.0.0 revision 5. This graphics driver was released just 4 days ago, and using a custom graphics driver in Citron Emulator will make sure that you get best graphical output and FPS. One Piece Unlimited World Red ran pretty well without even using a graphics driver. What about Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu? How well will it work inside the Citron Emulator? Let's find that out by starting this game. Well, what is this? The game actually crashed. This was not expected. Now, to use the on-screen touch controls in this game, you gotta go to controls. Afterwards, enable player 1 touch controls. Select controller type as handheld, and now you'll be able to use your on-screen touch controls. You'll be able to see it just crashes on my low-end Android device. This has never happened before, by the way. Alright, this time it actually booted, so for some reason it is crashing randomly, and sometime it works. Now this might also be because of the custom graphics driver that we are using, or just because of the insufficient memory. So we'll just go ahead and tap on the A button to start our game. Let's tap on continue your adventure. I actually imported a save file, but here we go. As you guys can see, the game has successfully started, and we are getting anywhere from 10 to 15 FPS while emulating this game on our low-end Android device. This is actually a very unplayable experience because Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu is the worst optimized game that you can emulate inside this emulator, so that is pretty understandable. But inside house, you'll be able to see the game is working at straight up 30 FPS, no lags, no stutters, and the great thing is that there are no graphical issues. But if you want more FPS while emulating this specific game, use either Skyline or Pine Emulator. Anyways, with that being said, let's move on towards our next game, which is going to be Red Dead Redemption 1. Don't worry, we'll also try out Pokemon Sword, but that will be towards the end of this video. The reason why I want to try out Red Dead Redemption is because it is one of the highest end Nintendo Switch games out there, which even lags on my iQOO 12 with Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor. So I want to see if Snapdragon 4 Gen 1 can even keep up with such high-end games. If it can, then that would be mind-blowing. I cannot expect it to run this game, honestly. Nonetheless, here we go. The game has started, and unfortunately, as you guys just saw, the game crashed. Let me try it out once more. Okay, here we go guys. This is pretty surprising. The second time when we open this game, you guys will be able to see it successfully started. And during this cutscene, we are getting about 13 to 12 FPS. Well, what if we skip the cutscene and directly enter this game? Well, I won't be able to expect more than 2 to 3 FPS, but if we do get more FPS than that, then it would be pretty surprising. And here we go, Red Dead Redemption 1 has successfully started. And oh my god, my entire device is lagging quite a lot. But still, we are emulating a AAA title on our low-end Android device. Just take a look at this, almost 3 to 4 FPS. I don't know if you guys can see it, but surely guys, we are emulating this game, and well, it is nowhere playable unfortunately, but just take a look at this, we are getting 5 FPS. So even if you have a very low-end Android device with only 6 GB of RAM, well, you can emulate some AAA titles as well in Citron Emulator. It is supported. Well, this is one of the unoptimized games and very hard to emulate games inside of emulators, because even on my iQOO 12, as I mentioned before, I only get like 10 to 15 FPS. So even getting half of that FPS is pretty impressive. With that being said, let's move on towards our next game, which is going to be Sonic X Shadow Generations. This is another new title which we'll be testing out in today's video, and as far as I know, it should definitely work on this low-end Android device. Alright, here we go, the game has successfully started. Let's go with Sonic Generations, and as usual, it has crashed the first time. Let's see if it works when I open it the second time. Okay, it actually works. So I have discovered this special problem in Citron Emulator on low-end devices. It crashes 2 times and then only you are able to play the game inside this emulator. So that's a very weird bug. I haven't seen this bug in any of the other Nintendo Switch emulators. So here we go, the game has successfully started, and at the top left corner you guys will be able to see that we are getting about 30 FPS, 25 to 30 FPS while emulating this I wouldn't say high-end, but a 3D Sonic game on our Android device. So you guys get the idea. You can emulate some low-end titles as well as some medium high-end titles inside Citron Emulator on your low-end devices. Let's just go ahead and go back and try out a final game, which is going to be Pokemon Sword. And here we go. Looks like this is going to be our first crash. During the Leon's entrance, our FPS is now stuck at 0.0, which means the game has crashed. So let's reopen it, and I believe this time it should definitely work. Well guys, no matter how many times I tried, it was always crashing during the Leon cutscene. So now I have imported a save file in Pokemon Sword. This time we'll see if it works or not. Well, no, it did not crash. So you gotta use save file if you are trying to emulate games like Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu or Sword and Shield. Let's just go ahead and set the limit speed percentage to 400, and now you'll be able to see we are getting more than 30 FPS at least inside house. The game crashed once again, as you guys just saw. Let me reopen and try it one last time. This time guys, I have disabled the turnip driver which has been provided. Instead, I am using stock graphics driver of my Android device. Now it appears that the game won't be crashing any longer, because the crashing issues might be because of the custom graphics driver that we were using. So let's go to outside world areas and see if the game works this time or not. Well, alright, as you guys just saw, the game did not crash. In fact, it actually booted. For some low-end Android devices, you should not use the graphics driver. Let's just go ahead and teleport to a different location by opening town map. So here we go guys, now we have teleported to one of the most demanding scenarios in Pokemon Sword. As you guys will be able to see, still we are getting about 15 to 20 FPS while emulating this game even in 3D world or open world areas. But I am able to notice that none of the Pokemons are being rendered properly, and there is an issue with the graphics, as you will be able to see. Now usually to fix all the graphical issues, we use a custom graphics driver, but unfortunately because of that driver, the game was crashing many times. Nonetheless, Pokemon Sword does work inside low-end Android devices inside of the Citron Emulator. So be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, turn on all notifications as I upload similar videos on my channel. I'll see you guys next time though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.